All right. Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Tonight is Sunday, August 15th, 2021. This is your evening update. We have a lot to talk about this evening. We have Tropical Storm Fred reformed and re-intensifying on approach to Florida's panhandle. Should be landfalling tomorrow evening and then moving through the southeast where heavy rainfall is expected throughout much of this week. We also have what is right now Tropical Depression Grace down in the Caribbean Sea moving towards Hispaniola and Cuba, although it looks like Grace may be back to tropical storm status or will be shortly. And then we also have a new player near Bermuda. This is tropical, or this is Invest 96L. This was on the Hurricane Center's map yesterday, but has quickly kind of gotten itself going and could very well be Tropical Depression 8 this evening as well. So we have a lot going on. We will start with Tropical Storm Fred, a somewhat intensifying storm. So the big thing with Fred is it did reform this morning. We had a new closed circulation center pop up in the southern Gulf of Mexico, and the storm has generally been moving in some component of north or just off to the northeast. The center is still partially exposed. You can see low-level clouds sticking out from under the circulation center right here, but a nice dense thunderstorm complex here on the right side of the system, and what is now some pretty good outflow in a couple channels. And what this is doing is the southwest wind shear that was imparting on the storm. There's still an upper trough through the Gulf of Mexico that's still pushing some southwest wind over Fred, but southwest wind shear in this sort of capacity, when the storm is moving north and the winds are out of the south, it also vents the storm aloft. You have this nice area aloft where air is able to efficiently rise and move and leave the storm. So this wind shear, although it does kind of expose the circulation center and does hamper it in some capacity, it also is really helping to help the other side of the storm. Evening recon passes are actually finding an intensifying Fred. Pressure at last check down to 1,000 millibars, which is healthier than Fred has been at any point during its life to this point. And you can see a pocket of flight level winds here around 65 to 70 knots. So those aren't translating to the surface, but there is a couple bands of very strong winds, or pretty strong winds rather, on the right side of the storm, and it looks like Fred is intensifying. Some of the other data does indicate some spikes of flight level wind, and also this spikes of low pressure, meaning that there's actually a bit of a center trying to really form with some dense thunderstorm activity. That's temperature spike here corresponding with the pressure drop. Those two things sort of indicate that Fred is trying to build at least a partial. It has a close circulation, obviously, but now we're talking about the inner eye or an inner core really kind of forming with Fred, and that is why the winds are beginning to respond in kind. Fred's still a lopsided system, and it will be up until landfall. So we are still expecting most of the impacts to be the right of the storm, but the Hurricane Center's call from days ago of a 60 or so mile an hour tropical storm is looking more likely and could even be a tick above that if Fred continues this. Now, the shear is still impacting the storm, and sometimes these things, they kind of act like they're going to do something and then they sort of putter and sputter back out. So we'll see if Fred can maintain this. But going into the evening, diurnal max in over warm water, the intensification is likely to continue. The evening Hurricane Center forecast has Fred as a 45 mile an hour tropical storm. I imagine that's going to go up to like 50 or 55 at the 11 p.m. advisory. Tropical storm warnings in effect for most of western Florida, from the Big Bend, Steinhatchee area over to about Navarre, and then a little bit of a tropical storm watch for about Pensacola, basically, to the border with Alabama, just in case some winds get a little stronger over there. But these are generally where your watches and warnings are going to be. And notice how much further on the right side they stick out than on the left side, because again, most of the impacts with Fred are going to be on the right side of the storm. Rainfall totals to come for Fred will be the biggest impact, most likely, as Fred does move ashore. Again, the path is something like this, but all that rainfall and tropical moisture on the right side of the storm. Rainfall totals from the Weather Prediction Center easily 6 inches, if not really more. I mean, some of the rainfall totals are actually closer to a foot or so as I mess around with my marker here. But isolated amounts, upwards of a foot of rain, very possible for parts of western Florida, and this will push up into parts of Georgia and Alabama and even into the Tennessee and Carolinas region and further north, really, as it looks like a cold front is probably going to interact with the system this week and really bring the moisture out. This is a lot of rainfall, especially if you go further north. The totals get a little bit less, but it's also areas that are less used to seeing this kind of rain. So definitely keep a close eye on Fred. The intensification will probably continue tonight, and don't be surprised if Fred is closer to the top end tropical storm at landfall going into tomorrow if these trends continue. But the next time you probably hear from me will be after Fred is moving ashore or about to move ashore. So you won't hear much more before then, most likely. Make sure I get you a video tomorrow morning to see how things are going for a quick update. I want to show you the wind swath forecast. This is from the NAM Nest. This thing usually overestimates winds, but I kind of like it in this case because it's showing the potential for a swath of 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts in western Florida, kind of again where this center is going to come ashore and where those bands of stronger winds are. This could be a little bit further over this way too, like Panama City and whatnot could be getting in on this if that stronger band of Fred's winds are, the center's here and the strongest bands are over here. These winds could also be occurring further away than what this model is indicating, but widespread wind swaths 40, 50 miles an hour for a lot of people. And then there's going to be one or two pockets where the wind gusts are closer to 60 or 70 miles an hour as Fred does come ashore. And it'll probably be a nasty little storm getting ashore. And along with that rainfall total will definitely be not a great day. And surge totals, first look at water rises on the coast, 3 to 5 feet. Look how far away. We're talking about Steinhatchee and Indian Pass area getting the highest surge totals. This is for that southerly wind just pushing that water northward. Not so much over here where the center comes ashore, but if the Fred is stronger, these may go up to like 2 to 4 or 3 to 5 as well. So surge, generally the 3 to 5 foot area for this region. Definitely not like the worst thing ever, but still a respectable storm surge from a storm that looks like it is intensifying tonight. So keep a close eye on Fred's forecast overnight tonight, guys. Have your preparations ready. It looks like the first areas of rain are already, the first bands of rain are already coming ashore or will be shortly. So you don't have a lot more time, and it looks like conditions will quickly go downhill by tomorrow afternoon with that landfall expected tomorrow evening right along that Florida coastline. Let's go ahead and switch over and talk a little bit about Tropical Storm Grace or Tropical Depression Grace right now by the Hurricane Center, probably a tropical storm by the time you watch this. Center circulation tonight somewhere here southwest of Puerto Rico. The system has been struggling today. It's got kind of a double whammy. There's the outflow of Fred and this upper trough over this region that's generally shearing her out of the northwest. And then she also has some of this like southeast wind shear still kind of pushing on the storm. So what you have is a sandwich storm with outflow channels north and south, but no outflow east, no outflow west. And this has caused more of an elongation of the system. And within this, you have like probably one or even two circulation centers trying to sort of fight out for control of Grace. So the system's been jumping around a little bit. Recon data found a central pressure around 1,010, 1,011 millibars. A center generally somewhere around 17 degrees north. But then they also found something like this feature indicating there may be a second center somewhere over here. So we'll see of these centers which one, kind of can fight it out and form up. But wind speeds, impressive in a couple spots. Some indications that there probably is, excuse me, there probably is 40 or so mile per hour winds in this storm. So it looks like we'll be getting that bump back up. But overall, it looks like Grace is still a bit ragged and whatnot tonight. Grace is really moving off to that west-northwest motion here still, and it looks like she will impact Hispaniola. I made a bit of a mistake last night. I said that the southern pass may be better for Grace. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have said north pass would have been better because this is where the storm can kind of just roll up over the island and kind of keep going and keep rotating. Whereas what's going to happen most likely is these mountains here will cause Grace's low-level center to pass through, but then all the convection will probably get stuck down here. So you'll probably have kind of a ripping apart of the storm as it moves through. It'll likely be significantly impacted by Hispaniola. Unfortunately, with the earthquake in Haiti this week, 7.2 magnitude earthquake over the weekend, rather. This is going to be a wet start to the week, and it's definitely going to hamper recovery efforts. And talk about being kicked when you're down as this tropical storm will move through, causing more gusty winds, heavy rain, and definitely impacting the search and rescue operations that are underway. So just really sad situation there. But Grace will continue off towards Cuba, and the future of her remains a bit in question. Hurricane Center does think she's going to be weak. That's a good call. Tropical storm, watch is still up for the islands and likely will be spread into Cuba or possibly, but western Cuba or eastern Cuba is still mountainous, and the system is going to interact with a lot of land for the next couple of days. As we get into Wednesday is where things may change a little bit for Grace. She'll stay pretty weak, and that's really going to depend on what the upper level winds look like. This is the GFS showing the upper level wind shear forecast, and we'll go ahead and run this out to Wednesday evening, and we have this kind of high pressure over much of the southeast United States, but you also have this stronger trough still dug in, and Grace should be somewhere right here on the periphery of that, and it looks like that stronger northerly and northeasterly wind still will be impacting the storm, causing wind shear. So Grace is already weak from the land interaction. She's going to struggle at least to start her journey into the Gulf of Mexico, and that's reflected well by the European model. And it also appears once Fred gets out of here, some dry air is going to build in behind him. So as we go into Wednesday and Thursday, you can see a lot of dry air positioned over the Gulf. Grace would probably be somewhere right about here moving into this Wednesday afternoon to Thursday. So the future of Grace, as far as her intensity goes, it's not like she couldn't still be decently strong in this region, but may not be all that strong as she moves through. So we'll have to see. Computer models generally kind of split on what happens after that. European model sees a weaker high, so it's further north, sees a lot of tracks into potentially Texas or Louisiana, although none of these members are exceptionally strong right now. GFS model sees a little more westerly track and a stronger high pressure and pushes it more into Mexico with only a few members into the states. And the hurricane models have all notably shifted to the south of the official forecast track. Now, every model at or below the official track, all showing that track more into Mexico. But, I would stress that anyone in Texas or Louisiana, keep a pretty close eye on this one tonight or for the next couple days. But it's going to be a little while before Grace gets there, and she's got some work to do, so I wouldn't be freaking out just yet. Let's go ahead and wrap up with Invest 96L, what is likely to become Tropical Depression 8 tonight, located near Bermuda. This thing is definitely getting itself together, and if this convection persists for a few more hours, Hurricane Center is going to probably upgrade this to TD11. Should swirl near Bermuda, where tropical storm watches or warnings may be required shortly. The future of the storm is a little questionable. Some models think that it'll simply be able to slip out under high pressure, kind of all around it. It'll just wander for a couple days, and it'll find some winds to carry it out. While a couple models actually don't think that happens, and it could be drifting back towards the U.S. for a couple days. The general thought is that the high pressure over the eastern United States should stay pretty strong, and probably blocks the system from getting too close. It's hard to find a way that this thing would get all the way back towards the Carolinas or Florida or the Bahamas or something. But it is worth watching the next couple days. So we'll get our first track from the Hurricane Center, see what they think, and we'll just have to keep an eye on this one. So wrap it up with Tropical Depression 16 in the Western Pacific, expected to be a 75 knot typhoon, 85 miles an hour or so, probably intensifying on approach to either northern Philippines, Taiwan, or possibly southern islands of southern Japan throughout this week. So keep an eye on that over there as well. So what I got for you guys this evening on your tropical update. Hopefully we can check back in the morning and see how Fred's doing. I might have a quick update then, but until then, as always, thanks for watching and have a good one.